are there any automated design programs? Can you describe a house in words, and then, a floor plan be generated?
HighArc, HighArc. They're geared towards the subdivision builders. They just came out in a beta where you can just upload a sketch of your program. Their computer vision analyzed the sketch into a floor plan. That floor plan is instantly built to a 3D model. The end user, you that you want to buy a house, you can start customizing all the elevations in the model. And on top of it, it will produce you the electrical, plumbing, mechanical drawings, framing, bill of materials, and permit drawings.
Wow, that's incredible. Welcome to another REI-NWA podcast. This is episode number 57, and we're going to be digging into tech tools for real estate and development. Super excited to dig into this today. As always, I'm your host, Coley Bailey, broker at Lone Rock Realty, as you can see here. And my guest is Iliya Muzychuk. And I hope I said that right. So
you said it right in. Yeah.
Okay, Muzychuk. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hard pronunciation.
And you are an architect, and your company is called Layouts. And it's been amazing just chatting with you over the last few weeks at some of the REI meetings. You really know your stuff when it comes to the tech tools and when it comes to design and engineering and architecture and how all these things blend together, and the tools that can help bring projects together. So I'm excited to dig into all this with you. Before we dig into that too much, tell us about yourself, who you are, where you're from, how you got to doing what you're doing now, man.
Cool. So thanks for the intro. So a little bit about myself. I just moved to Northwest Arkansas about 6 months ago. I came from LA. Before LA, I came from Israel. I was born in Ukraine, so I'm all mix of generations and cultures. And I used to work for the past 7 years for a pretty distinguished firm in design. It's Brooks & Scarpa Architect. They're located in LA, and we did projects across Saudi Arabia, China, the US, Europe, and so forth. And will define myself on the realm of architecture and technology, or coming from a strong startup culture like Israel and mixing design. And I was the guy that was always asking the question of how can we make things quicker and streamlining? And I ended up basically reimagining the entire firm I worked for. And we built out workflows and processes, how to streamline the design part. And about a year ago, I decided to leave, and I opened Layouts, which Layouts does partially I do architectural projects, partially I consult firms on how to streamline or use technology. And I've also exploring the realm of artificial intelligence, technology, computational design, architecture, and development. So I don't have a clear title yet, but I feel it's an exploration time we're at, and especially this boost of tech lately is immense. So I'm trying to position myself there.
Yeah, so let's dig into this tech stuff a little bit. I spend more time than I should admit watching videos about AI, things upcoming, and I've used all the AI tools since they started coming out for marketing purposes, building campaigns, website funnels, email drip campaigns, all kind of stuff. And it's immensely helpful there. But everybody, or let's just say, all the hype is around AI and actual artificial intelligence. But what a lot of people are missing is that there are so many other tech tools out there that a lot of people don't even know about, and that are kind of getting overshadowed, I would say, by AI. I mean, you have things like APIs have been in place for, I don't know. I don't even know how long that's been in place. As long as I've been doing anything with websites and social media and all of that, where you can you can take information from one application and transfer it to another application, right? So you run some kind of ad on social media, you get a lead through API, it can drop into your CRM, and then there are various other things you can do with the API. But these are just automations that people have in their businesses and in their workflows, and it's not AI, you know.
No. And I get to your point, actually, like about 6 years ago, where I originated like the idea of layouts. I basically scraped the entire database of LA into one big database, right? And when I mean scraped, like when you're in development or you're trying to evaluate the property, right? You go and you try to look at the zoning, you want to look at the survey, you want to look at who bought it, when bought it, and so forth. You're basically aggregating a lot of data sources, right?
Yeah.
But most of developers will be like, okay, here's my architect, what can I build on that lot, right? So what we did about 6 years ago at our first test, it was me and a couple of friends. We basically scraped all the data, put in one algorithm that once you put an address, you get exactly what you can build, right?
Oh, wow.
Instantly. So you don't need to wait 3 weeks or pay $1,000 on a feasibility research.
What kind of data were you pulling for that? Were you getting
parcels, allowed FAR, allowed zoning, allowed use, parking requirements, history.
Were you getting the owners and all of that too?
Whatever data you want, you can, right?
Yeah.
With your point on API, after we scraped it and did it quote unquote manually, which it's not manually in developer terms.
Yeah.
You have API vendors right now that for few cents, you buy the entire information of a property that is available online. Right. So if you, let's say a real estate company and you hire somebody to do your development, you can tie that API now that every property that you look at, you instantly get all the information you need to evaluate. And you get a massing study within minutes instead of waiting for somebody to do it for you. Yeah. If you take the next step of it, you put that massing study into Stable Diffusion, and you render whatever you want to see and submit it to the city.
Oh, wow.
So, these are the tools I'm always playing with.
Yeah.
And API is one of them, because API is basically calling different programs into your algorithm, right? And I think that is a domain that is people are not even aware of.
Right.
It exists there, right? So
let's talk about, man, you and I have had side conversations that a lot of these tech tools, a couple of things I want to make sure we talk about. One is mapping, right?
Yeah.
So using drones to actually get 3-dimensional maps of a job site, right? Can you talk about
this? Yeah, I mean, that is actually what brought me to talk to Kathleen, because 2 months ago at the Builder Circle, I was hearing the people basically talking to the civil engineer and saying, yeah, when you guys don't go on site, you miss out on your elevation point or your drainage patterns and so forth. And they're complaining about just seeing 2-dimensional plans and not seeing anything. Yet they're not aware that you now can buy for $8,000, the cost of a survey, you can buy a drone with it's called RTK system. It's its own GPS that you mount on it, and within 10 minutes you can scan an entire acreage accurately and have a 3-dimensional model that you can always reference, and you can see all the utilities, all the grading, all the drainage pattern, planting, whatever you need to know, and you can pull that into your other working sites to start a design. And we actually tested it in the field. We did a project in Florida where throughout the process of construction, we would scan what's going on and would bring these scans with our 3D models to compare if the contractor is actually building what we intended him to build. And it's such a cheap technology. It's simple and it's cheap and super accessible, and for that also the point cloud scanning that today you can do with your iPhone. So you can go to a space and just point your iPhone and get a 3-dimensional mock-up of the space without even using a tape measurement. like these technologies are so accessible, but I think people are just not even aware of their existence, and they're saving so much time. So for young folks like me, that is already part of my toolset.
Yeah.
Like I would order a 3D scan instead of actually waiting for a survey. And part of what I actually offer people now is actually the S-build, because I get the scan. There's algorithms that convert it into a model, and then you get your floor plans or site plans pretty quickly instead of waiting to that engineer 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah. So let me get this straight. So you get a 3-dimensional model of a parcel of land.
Yeah.
Then you can also put into that 3D model what the architects are designing.
Yeah.
Right. Or what the engineers are designing for roadways and all of that.
Yeah.
So it can go right onto that model. And then the buildings can go right in when you get those floor plans as well.
Yeah, a big thing is it's been like the past 20 years in the design world. We have been moving from CAD drawings or computer aided design, which is two-dimensional graphics, into building information modeling, which is BIM. If you Google out BIM, you'll see a lot of content about it. And it's this thing that like each engineer or each trade will kind of draw a scope, but they don't communicate to each other. So now, like, if you think about it, when you build a tower, why don't you put all the trades together in 3D so you can see it easily in a computer and it can coordinate everything before you go on the field? So there's a big push in the design world to move into that technology. And that technology is becoming so accessible on the cloud now, too, that you can see everything that goes into a building before you even hit ground. And companies that adopt it are proving themselves more profitable, and they can scale bigger, quicker, actually.
So is that kind of like you can click and say, okay, show me all the plumbing, and it'll maybe gray everything else out and show the plumbing runs. Yeah.
And the nerdiest part of it is like people actually connecting to these API, putting a GPT on top of it, and you just type, hey, show me the plumbing, and the GPT shows you the plumbing, counts the plumbing, tells you the type of pipes, and you can put it already into order. I wouldn't recommend to put it to order yet because they do mistakes, but that's where it's heading. And if you ever seen a contractor doing takeoffs and just like using his pen on a plan and just marking and a calculator and doing all the mistakes, let alone they don't know what Excel is. Now, like if you're smart, or if you adopt these tools, you can instantly get all your takeoffs, all your material takeoffs, all the infos, all the ARC files, and so forth.
That's amazing that they're putting essentially a chat bot to it.
Yeah.
You can talk to your plans.
Yeah.
You can say, oh, well, how many board feet do we have in this building? And it's like
one of like my biggest.
That's amazing.
I'm active on LinkedIn. If you look me on LinkedIn, you can actually find me. But one of my biggest traction I got, I put a mechanical set into GPT, and I asked the GPT, what do you see in these details? Because like you as the owners, you don't understand what the engineer put there.
Yeah.
And the GPT tells you, okay, this is the breakdown, this is the equipment, this is how it's installed, here's where you buy the equipment, here are the links to Home Depot and so forth. Now, it tries its best. Sometimes it doesn't, like it makes the mistakes, of course.
Right.
But if you can imagine where this technology is heading 2 years from now.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, it's stupid not to harness it.
Right.
It's negligence, in my opinion, not to harness these technologies.
So then you were also talking about VR. So essentially you can, I guess, go to the job site and put VR goggles on and like look around.
So there's a company, I think, called GeoPogo that I've been following on, that you basically can overlay like your model, the 3D model on the site with the real coordinates of the site, and then you either use your iPad to look around or you use a VR set to look around. The VR didn't prove itself really well in the field as much as the iPad.
Yeah.
The iPad was a breakdown to computerize the construction field.
Well, because every field manager has an iPad out there already. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And if they would be smart enough to buy the iPad Pro with the LiDAR, now they also have scanning capabilities on their iPad. Yeah. So they can compare versions and so forth.
But so they can, I guess it's augmented reality, really, through,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
you're looking at an image and then the 3D thing can pop in there and you can
yeah.
move around and see it, right?
It's very actually useful for plumbing and electrical
I bet.
trades
Yep.
because there's so much components that go in that are missed on the planet. And now you can easily just like visualize it. The workers can see where to put what, and you can monitor. And there's endless startups that are kind of like working on it. There is a startup called Revisto that is about that, of like overlaying models and systems on site. And then once that is overlaid, it's kind of dump proof. You can easily build it. Like you don't really need to be like specialized carpenter once you see all the studs and where they go and which components goes to the studs, for example.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
that's part of design technology, right? It's not like
Yeah.
one thing, but it's like a set of innovation that is just going. And for that example, like last year, $34 billion were funded, were like basically streamed in to fund startups in that field. A year before it was 4 billion. So we had like a 10x jump in 1 year to fund startup for construction technology,
Wow.
because this field is so traditionally obsolete. Every contractor you meet is like, yeah, I know what I'm doing, but then they run to Home Depot like 50 times like everybody else.
Yeah.
So there's so much money there to save. And a lot of startups are actually moving in that direction.
Yeah. Yeah, and with affordability issues and all of that in the market, any area that you can avoid waste and you can
Yeah.
save time. Yeah, can you talk a little bit about some of the ways that costs can be reduced through technology? You've hit on some of them already, but
It's honestly, it's really easy because change orders, when you go into construction and you have a change order is magnitude of a 5-figure number, right? Somebody didn't count the amount of lumber they need, or the architect forgot to put the right notation on the mechanical system. Those things are change order in the field. They cost tons of money. These kind of coordination mistakes could easily be avoided by just seeing exactly what you get, like seeing everything in 3D instead of like reading those cumbersome plans. So that is one element of saving money. You save error. The other way is time to market, because like in construction, the more time it takes you to build, or the more time it takes you to design, you're paying holding cost, general costs like labor and so forth. So once like you have a streamlined, I would say, digital system, you can save the time of design significantly, and you can also kind of like do all your procurement and ordering could be also intelligently set to also save time. So I would say it's like error in time saves you a lot of money, and technology is there to save you error in time.
absolutely. Yeah. Wow. Okay, so are there any sort of automated design programs, or like, for example, I don't know, I'm just asking, I don't know if this exists, but an AI where you say, hey, we'd really like, a home with a very modern aesthetic. We need 4 bedrooms. We want a movie room. We want a huge walk-in closet and a big pantry, and we
So
want
yeah,
an island. Like, can you describe a house in words, and then a floor plan be generated? Is anything doing
so,
that
so
yet?
more than that, if you type in right now, HighArc, HIGHARC, I think this is the leading company in creating that workflow. They raised like $70 million last year, and they're geared towards like the subdivision builders. And I'm going to also show them in my presentation.
Okay.
And they just came out in a beta where like you can just upload a sketch of your program. Their computer vision analyzed the sketch into a floor plan. The floor plan is instantly built to a 3D model, and then you get like a rendering of all the elevations. And the end user, you that you want to buy a house, you can start customizing all the elevations in the model. And on top of it, it will produce you the electrical, plumbing, mechanical drawings, framing, bill of materials, and permit drawings.
Wow, that was my next question: is how well
Yeah.
does that integrate with the other things you were telling? Wow, that's incredible.
They took that concept of building information modeling, right? They come from the field. They remapped it into something that, okay, let's target one problem, which is like the subdivision build out, which is standardized and typical, and let's build the entire system around that. And I think I haven't tested their product yet, but I've been following them, and I think they're actually coming into a breakthrough of design tool where it's like so dumbed down that any person or any builder can use it and actually get the documents in from them.
Yeah. Wow.
So there are like the leading, I think Midjourney is a great tool. I don't know if you've heard about Midjourney.
Yep.
Midjourney, like even just like put a facade of a house that you took from Zillow. And I think they have the edit or retexture component now and tell it, okay, I want to remodel in a mid-century style with white siding and black windows, and it actually follows it.
Yeah, I've
It
seen
doesn't
some
give you the step of the plans yet.
like a digital before and after. Yeah.
It gives you a digital before and after, and there's a bunch of AIs that do it like for the staging and so forth. But Midjourney is like really more aesthetically pleasing and creative.
Yeah.
And from my experience, I did that on the property I bought here. I told it, imagine several townhomes. I took these towns up to the planning department. I told them, hey, this is what I want to build. No need for any plans in the planning department. It's like, oh, okay, we understand exactly what you want to do. You know what, it looks pretty, you can do it. So like now you have a better reaction and communication
Right.
with the tool that is cost me $8 a month, and it generates an image instantly. Whereas like a typical user or a typical developer will have to go to an architect. Usually they can't afford a great design from an architect. So they get plans in a few weeks, then somebody needs to model them, somebody needs to render them, and so forth. Now with Midjourney, man, like go look at any lot, re-envision it, send it to somebody in Cambodia to do the floor plans, and submit to the city. Like that's a complete disruption of my industry. Yeah. Or HighArc or other companies in that scale, right?
Yep. Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Okay.
We've been going on for 20 minutes now, and I know we could go on a lot longer, but that's what our program is for. So definitely make sure that you're coming out to this builder circle. I'm really excited about this one. It's going to be on Tuesday, March 4th, 2025. It's going to be at Rendezvous Junction Brewery in Rogers. Come on out at 5:30. We'll get started with our networking and everything. And Iliya will get started with the presentation at around 6. So definitely come on out to this one. It's going to be really interesting, and you're bringing some really cool examples with your presentation, right?
I'm going to try and do, I don't know if I can plug my laptop there, but I'm going to try and do it interactively, and let's test some of the products live as well. So
fantastic. All right, man. Well, thanks for coming on the show. This is, I'm a techie. I get all excited with this stuff. So,
well, I think, there's like the young generation that suddenly comes into that business and they're like, hey, why are we doing it?
Right.
So antiquated. Like we can streamline any little part of it. So it's a generational shift. So you're part of it, I'm part of it. And it's just like, let's tell the others about it.
Absolutely. All right, man. Well, thanks for coming on the show. So good to see you. And we will catch you guys on the next one.
Thanks a lot.
See ya.
Bye-bye.